Hey, writer, ready to take your fiction to the next level? Whether you've just got a great idea or you're already stuck in the murky middle of writing your book, the Wicked Good Fiction Bootcamp I designed just for you. This 8-week self paced online course gives you the tools, the guidance, and the support you need to get to the end of your book and know that it is wicked good. Head to susievidori.com/bootcamp or follow the link in the show notes for more information and get started today. I'll see you inside where I'll be there to support you as you comment and share your work throughout the course. Welcome to Show Don't Tell Writing with me, Susie Vidori, where I teach you the tried and true secrets to writing fiction, nonfiction that are going to wow your readers, broken down step by step. We're going to explore writing techniques. I'm going to show you a glimpse behind the scenes of successful writers' careers that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. And I'm also going to coach writers live on their pages so that you can learn and transform your own storytelling. Whether you're just starting out, you're drafting your first book, you're editing, or you're currently rewriting that book, or maybe even your 10th book, this show's going to help you unlock the writing skills that you didn't even know you needed, but you definitely do. I'm so looking forward to helping you get your amazing ideas from your mind onto your pages in an exciting way for both you and your readers so that you can achieve your wildest writing dreams. And you're going to also have some fun doing it. Let's dive in. Today's episode is going to be a special treat. We're going to do something a little bit different. We are participating in Podcastathon 2025. And for those of you who've never heard of it, it is this really cool thing. It's worldwide, it's over 1,500 podcasts, and each podcast has chosen a charity to highlight. And so if you're coming to us from Podcastathon 2025, and this is the first episode that you've ever listened to, then welcome. And if you are a regular listener of the Show Don't Tell Writing podcast and you're like, what is this, Susie? And why should I keep listening? You're in for such a treat. We have chosen to partner with or to highlight Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. Now, when we first started planning, we wanted to participate in this podcast-thon. We wanted to give back somehow and highlight a charity. My assistant, Liz Bradley, who I'm going to bring on in just a moment, you're going to get to meet the brains behind the editing and everything that runs properly in my business, is all Liz is doing. And she just came to me with this idea to highlight the Imagination Library from Dolly Parton. And I was like, what is it exactly? And to just hear the excitement with which she spoke about this charity and about Dolly Parton, it got me really intrigued because I am so inspired. I mean, as an author myself, and as somebody who dips my feet into being a public figure and advises other writers and authors about how to do the same, I absolutely am so inspired by anybody who's out there just doing their thing, right? And Dolly, the more I looked into Dolly Parton, because I didn't know a ton about her before, but the more I looked into what it is that she's doing and just that she's able to reinvent herself time and time again and give back and do all the things that I'm sure many, many of us hope that we can do one day when we make millions and millions of dollars from our writing. So today, when we talk about this charity, we're not just going to promote the charity and what it is. We're going to talk about that too. We're also going to look at, what are some ways that you can put your thinking cap on as you step into your life as an author? As you step into your life as a public figure, what are some ways that you can reinvent yourself? And what are some ways that you can take skills that you learned in other areas that aren't writing and turn that to your advantage or turn that into something that you can give back in the community, which will make your writing get found, right? It's going to help you create those connections that allow you to step into that persona. So I want you to just keep an open mind. And as we talk about what's going on here, I want you to think about your own writing life and how that might apply. So, Liz is coming on the show. Lots of times she is behind the scenes and she's going to have to edit this segment. And so I'm going to embarrass her for a moment because I am just so inspired by Liz every single day. She is truly my right hand in my business. I couldn't do half the things that I do behind the scenes, especially without Liz. And she has been working with me now for 4 years. That is absolutely insane. She is a science fiction writer and loves fairy tale reimaginings. And she is just, her writing is quirky, it's fun, it's incredible. And I am so privileged to have a front row seat to what it is that she's doing with it. This year alone, she's started submitting and she's querying her novel. She's got a full length novel, and she's also already sold 4 pieces, short pieces, in the last 12 months. And so I just love watching her blossom and seeing what she's going to do with her career. We're going to leave some links to follow Liz in the show notes because I think that you're going to be really amazed and cheer her on as well over the next couple of years as her career unfolds. She came to me from the theater, and she had been working in theater for many years, and it took her around the world. She currently lives in Southwest Virginia with her husband and 2 sons, and just a short drive from Dollywood, which is where this all began. Take a listen. Welcome, Liz. This has been a long time coming. I'm so excited to be sitting down with you in this context.
Hey, I am so excited too. I'm a little nervous, but this will be fun.
Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. The reason that, I mean, we actually, when we decided to do this charity and Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, we did invite Dolly. And I kind of set it up like, hey, Liz, I hope you're not going to be mad or insulted if I do something. And she's like, what? I said, I'm
I
going to
would
invite Dolly
never be
Parton.
mad for
Yeah.
Dolly Parton to be
Well,
in my presence.
she hasn't gotten back to us yet. But if she does, she can definitely come on and we'll record this again, I promise. But Liz, I'll let you interview her because I know that, can you share with listeners what your connection is to Dolly and being from your part of the world, what Dolly Parton, sort of the icon, means?
Yeah, Dolly Parton is like Americana folklore and like it's crazy. I didn't grow up in the South. So like I knew her as a kid and growing up and everything, seeing her around on TV, seeing her music, but I didn't really understand kind of how big of a deal Dolly was until I went to college. And I had a friend who her whole life goal was to get a job at Dollywood performing. And I was like, what is Dollywood? I knew nothing. And she kind of introduced me to everything that was Dolly Parton. And it really opened my eyes to kind of what a dynamic person she is. You know, she's not just a singer, she's not just a philanthropist. She has built this empire. And then I ran into this podcast called Dolly Parton's America from NPR. And it's like a 9-part series on why is Dolly Parton so beloved by everyone, like across the spectrum. What is it about Dolly that just draws people to her? And it was this amazing deep dive into her history and what she's doing now. And just I was fascinated. She's this woman who is so in control of her life, is what it looks like from the outside, at least. And she has done so much good for so many people. And I think that, the first time I visited Dollywood to go see that same friend who got that job, it was amazing.
She did get the job. I love
She
that. I
did.
mean,
She
part
performed
of
on
what we
stage
do.
with Dolly and everything. It was amazing.
Yeah, like part of what this whole community and show don't tell writing and my inspired writing community, everything is about going for our dreams. And so I hope you can hear, listeners, the excitement in Liz's voice and the reason that we ended up picking this charity. That I wanted to have Liz on and actually interview her on what this charity is all about is because of that excitement, right? Like when we want to write books, if we are wildly successful, right? If and when we are wildly successful, what will that look like and what will we do with our lives? And I think about that a lot. There are so many icons out there, women icons in particular, that I follow. Dolly wasn't on my radar and now she is, right? And I was asking around after Liz suggested it, and I couldn't hear anything negative. I mean, one of the big people that I follow in my world, in my life, in my, my decades of experience is Madonna. And I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for this maybe, and that's okay because, right? Because Madonna is controversial, and whether or not you believe in her politics, that's not what makes me follow her or like her. I mean, I was in third grade when Material Girl came out, right? So this has been something that's my whole life. And my husband and I were in LA this past year to see her performing live at like 60 something years old, right? And it's just
Right. That's
like
amazing.
these yeah, these women that can span decades and be culturally relevant and just keep reinventing themselves. And I think that energy and that amazing like joie de vivre, whatever that is that drives you is something that as an author, we all aspire to, right? If your book gets out there in the world, 50 years from now, are you still going to be producing books? Are you still going to be, or 20 years from now, I don't know when you're starting in life, are you still going to be producing books? Are you still going to find a way to be relevant in society? And I mean, for myself, I hope the answer is yes. And for you, I hope the answer is yes as
Yes.
well. Sorry for that aside there, Liz. I just
No,
like,
that's amazing. And it goes right back to there's a quote that Dolly has on her Imagination Library website that says Dolly Parton believes that if you can read, you can do anything, dream anything, and be anything. And I think that's amazing because it's about making those readers who will then believe that they can do anything. If Dolly did it, coming from nothing, coming from a family where her father couldn't read, he couldn't write. And that was what inspired her to kind of start this literacy program because she saw how powerful that was. That when you can read, you can do anything, you can become anything, you can have your own theme park, like in the middle of Tennessee. Who
I
doesn't
don't
want
know
that?
what. I don't know what Liz Bradley world would be, but I'd
Oh
probably want to go
gosh.
there. I think it would be full of science fiction.
Oh my gosh, the aliens, like the alien spaceship that goes around. They're
I
so
wish the
fun.
listeners could see the wild hand actions that this is making right
Trying to
now,
explain
describing, trying
the
to
amusement park rides.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so back to brass tacks here. What is Dolly Parton's Imagination Library?
So Dolly's Imagination Library is a book program. So you can sign up no matter what your family's income is, and your child will receive a book, one book per month, completely free of charge to you from the time they are born until they turn age 5.
Or the time that
And
they register, right? From the time that they register
yes,
until age
yeah.
5.
So from when you register, you get a new book every single month until your child is 5, and they ship it right to you. It's really an amazing, amazing program.
Yeah. And I think it's somewhere, we were checking on stats. They've delivered over 257 million books free to kids. And how did that start? You talked a little bit about growing up, her dad couldn't read. Like, what drove Dolly to actually create this particular program at this particular moment in time?
Yeah. So one of the things that I love about Dolly that is always just impressed me so much is she is someone who has always believed that, you know, when you're given so much that it becomes an important thing for you to give back. And she's one of those people who could be much, much richer than she is. But she has always prioritized giving back and very specifically giving back to the community that she grew up in. So she grew up in rural Sevier County, Tennessee, and that's where she started the program. So she decided that especially in, rural areas in the deep South in America, there was this need to foster literacy. And one of the best things you can do to do that is to focus on young children and make sure they're being read to. And not everyone had the resources to get books, high quality books, to in their homes. And so she started right at home, and started this program giving out books to anyone in her area. And then it just grew from there. And they've partnered with different governments and local and wider. And now it's open in, I think, the 5 different countries. So now it's available in Australia, Canada, Ireland, the UK, and the US. So it's just kind of blossomed from there, which I think is proof that, what she believed with literacy is really universal, and that it's
Yeah.
so helpful for everyone.
It's just the more I read about, the Imagination Library, the more I just love the story because if you believe, you will succeed, right? Like when you put the things in place, what can happen? You do one thing at a time. She started grassroots, she started local, she did one thing at a time. Yes, I mean, she does have a lot of money and cachet behind it,
Sure.
but, like she's also partnered with so many people around the world, and this is not something that she could have done on her own, right?
Mm-mm.
So I love that idea of, starting young, and if people can read and understand, life is easier or life is an open book, pun intended, right? Many of our listeners here who are writers probably grew up reading, and I mean you're a writer, and that's the
Yeah.
reason that you're part of my team. I only hire writers where I can, right? So what has reading meant to you in your life? Because I bet you're like a lot of our listeners out.
Yeah. I mean, some of my earliest memories and some of my best memories are involving books, and not just me reading, but being read to. And, one of the best things my dad ever did was after dinner every night, he would sit in the rocking chair in the corner and we would sit down at his feet, very Norman Rockwell-esque, where we would sit there and then he would read to us, and he would read everything. We read, the Chronicles of Narnia. I remember laying there. I have very specific memories of like laying on my back, looking up at my dad as he's reading about, these fantastic events, and just being like, this is amazing. Like, these are really precious memories, I think, that I'm going to hold on to for my whole life. And then as I got older, my mom sitting there reading her fantasy novels, Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Pern. I remember it very, very specifically, the big dragon on the front. And I was like, wow, I want to read that. And, it's just all of these good family bonding moments that life wasn't always really easy. I grew up without a lot of money. And those are the moments where none of that mattered, because we had each
Yeah.
other and we had these amazing stories that showed me a world so far beyond kind of this small town that I grew up in. And they gave me the confidence in life to just be like, I can go anywhere, I can do anything. If these characters in these books can like be the chosen one, I could be the chosen one. Like I can go on my own adventures. And it started so young with my parents reading to me, reading these books. There was never a time where there weren't books in our home. Now, a lot of the time they were library books because we couldn't afford to just go buy every new book that came out, but they always found a way. And I feel like if we had had access to something like the Imagination Library, how amazing would that have been? Where they send the books straight to you every single month, and then you'd have this amazing library of your own, that you didn't have to give back to the library. That would have been so cool. And I just think that's an amazing thing that kids can experience now, is those moments with family and just setting them up for a future where they really can believe in themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the sky's the limit. And one of the things I was trying to think, Liz has been working with me for almost 4 years now. It's
That's
like, is that
crazy.
not even true? And the moment that I put out the job posting over my newsletter, Liz was the first application, and I made it hard. Like it was not an easy application. You had to do a video. I didn't really give a lot of instruction. You had to tell me what books you liked. I mean, I was like really mean about it because I get a lot of applications, and Liz applied within like 2 hours, I think, of
I
me
was
sending
so
this email.
excited.
Yeah, you were so excited. And I was like, I mean, I got over 60 applications, but Liz's stood out because, of all the things that you've done, and you've continued to impress me over the last 4 years. I mean, just like you said, you've never been afraid in your career, your husband's career, to just pick up and go, right? And to do what's
Yeah.
right for yourselves and your family. This will be in some of the introduction as well, but she's currently like she's sold 4 short stories this year, just going
Yeah.
for it, right?
Yeah.
And querying your first novel. Like all of that is stuff that we have to do. And to make it in this business, and you're doing it, man. And yeah, reading early. For me as well, I learned to read very early. At the time when I was learning to read, I was 4. We were living on the Harvard campus because my dad was going to Harvard. That sounds really shishy, but we were poor because he was a student, and Harvard's expensive.
Yep.
And he was there on scholarship. It wasn't because we were born with silver spoons or anything, but yeah, it was really hard. And reading, I think, at an early age has allowed me to recreate myself 1,000 times. And that's where,
Yeah.
these women that I look to that aren't in my space, that aren't, music, that are music icons or whatever. And like, well, how are they doing it? How are they pursuing their dreams, whether they're the same as mine or not? Right. Okay, so let's go back to your friend in college who had the dream to work at Dollywood. I cut you off
Yeah.
that story earlier, and I'm dying to know. So you went to visit her at Dollywood, and was it exactly
And
what she'd hoped?
it was amazing. Like, Dollywood is the most interesting theme park you've ever been to because the emphasis is not just on the roller coasters, which are amazing. They really are good. I rode all of them multiple times. But the shows there, because Dolly is a performer, everything has her special touch to it. And so you go to all these shows and it's not just, it's top tier performances with these top tier singers and dancers. And then Dolly shows up and she will perform. And there's a performance where it's the history of her whole family and everything. And she'll come at Christmas time and perform with everyone there at the park. And it's just this really magical island in the middle of Tennessee. It's fabulous and it's an excellent time for everybody there.
Oh, so amazing. Okay, so back to the Imagination Library.
Mm-hmm.
Liz, how does the program work? So they get a book every month, right? For their entire first 5 years or whenever you've signed up. And I think
Yep.
there's some set ones, like the first book is a particular book and the last book is a
Yes.
particular book. How does that work?
Yeah. So the first book that a child always receives is The Little Engine That Could, and it's a special edition version. And then they get different books. They'll tell you what books they're getting that year. So they kind of have a schedule that you can go online and see these are the books for 2025. And then when they turn 5 years old, the last book they get, and I thought this was really sweet, is Look Out Kindergarten, Here I Come. And it's also a custom version for them. They also have tons of bilingual books in Spanish and English. They get more and more of those each year. And they have Braille and audio books for children who have lower impaired vision. And they work with Penguin Random House to get all of those books each year.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is so cool, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast, and especially when we bring on guests, and if Dolly were here, I would be like all over it. I know Liz doesn't know all the details of the business, but at the same time, there's some cool things that are happening here with the way that this evolved, right? There's partnerships, like I talked about with Penguin Random House. And some of those books, like The Little Engine That Could, I don't know when that was. I mean, that's got to be a book from the 60s, right? Like, it's a book in children's books in particular. Some of these books live forever. And
Yeah.
so you got to think about that. I mean, if your book is successful, maybe it will live on for a very long time. Children's books, it's hard. If you're writing a children's book, it's actually really difficult to break in because some of those books, The Goodnight Moons and The Hungry Caterpillar and things like that, are books that are on everybody's shelf. And so, they're still getting royalties for a book that's now 60 years old, right? And then there's new books as well. And so I think it's really neat how this program actually has a mix of those. And
Mm-hmm.
so, they're giving over 500,000 books at a time of a print run. So that's a pretty neat experience for a newer author or somebody who comes out with a picture book that is able to distribute it in that way. And it's not necessarily because I'm sure, when they're printing them at that at that level, they're not getting full royalties or anything else. But at the same time, that book, if it's in 500,000 households, maybe that child is going to grow up and give that book to their child, right? Like if it's something that they love and it's got this chance
Exactly.
to be this classic, to be your retirement plan, basically. And
Yeah.
I think the other thing is, even if you are not writing children's books and you're like, okay, Susie, I'm going to turn this podcast off now because it has nothing to do with me. I just want you to pay attention for just a moment, because as we talked about, introducing reading early means that you are creating a reader for life. And so, supporting a charity like Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, you're creating readers that are going to be readers of your books one day if you're not writing for children. It's in all of our best interests. I like to say as well, that because people feel very competitive about their books. And
Yes.
we think, oh, I don't want to tell anybody my idea because what if they go and write that book, right? Have you ever
Right.
heard that
Steal my
list?
story.
Steal my story. I mean, yeah, could it happen? Absolutely. But here's the thing is people who buy books or people who read books don't just read one book. So you're
Mm-hmm.
good, right? We're not in competition. If somebody reads my book and loves my book, guess what? Because I mean, the Fountain series that are my books, I have so many kids come to me and tell me that was the first book I read cover to cover. And can
That's
I tell you, if
amazing.
right? It is amazing. It's been, yeah, there's almost been 10 years since my first book was published. That's pretty scary. Almost been a decade, but the thing is I still get emails from readers, less so emails and now more Instagram DMs or something from kids coming up.
The times are
But
changing.
times are changing. But yeah, that was the first book that they read cover to cover at 11 or 12, where that was the first chapter book that they finished and loved and read again. And here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. If I can do that with my books, guess what? I just created a reader for your books later, right?
Exactly.
Because they need that one first book.
Mm-hmm.
How
And how many
and
times do you finish a book and you're like, oh my gosh, I need this exact book again, but different. So if
yep,
you can get that, if you can create that and have the exact same book but different, then
yeah.
you're set. They're not competition. They are the pathway to your book.
That's right. Because it's easy to look at a program like Imagination Library and be like, well, my books aren't going to get 500,000, copies sold during this program. But all of these initiatives and supporting these initiatives, whether your books or somebody else's, is going to create that next generation of readers, is going to create that built-in readership for your books. So yeah, I just wanted to put that in perspective for a moment. So there is a partnership with Penguin Random House, but I mean, Liz, you have kids and I have kids, and neither one of us were able to take it. Actually didn't know about the program when my kids were that
Mm-hmm.
age. I don't know how long it's been in my region, but can you talk a little bit about, because I know that you weren't able to take advantage of it, but there are ways to take advantage of it. Can you explain how they would find out if it's available in their region?
Absolutely. Your library is a good place to start. They usually know. So if you're already going to your local library, you can always ask them, do we have Imagination Library locally? But otherwise, you can go to the Imagination Library website. And I know we'll put the link in the show notes for that. And you can see if they're available in your area. I know when I had kids, one of the first things I did is I looked it up, and we didn't have a local partnership at the time. Now my area does. Just as my youngest is turning 5 and would age out of the program, they had a big announcement and everything. So we now have Imagination Library in our town, which is amazing. And it was our library that supported it and supported that partnership. So you can
So
go
can
on
you
their website.
explain, yeah, but can you explain what that means? Like how have they done, it's grassroots, right? Like they need
Yes,
volunteers locally. So what does that mean to have it
exactly.
in your region?
So the people who support it in the region are going to help with that distribution. So if you go on the website and you find that they don't have it in your area, you can actually volunteer to help set up these distribution points and to help get the program into your area for other people.
Right. So the books are available. You just need to, they need that volunteer force or boots on the ground in your area in order to get the books distributed, which is really neat if you think about that, right? Like it's
Yeah.
so grassroots.
And I think it's a great way, you could get a mom group together. You could go to your library and say, "Hey, I want to help with this." And, I know libraries are always looking for what does the community want, and this is such a great way to build community and help out locally. I know a lot of people are looking for things, you always feel small. You're like, I'm just one person. What can I do? This is something you can do. If you don't have money to donate, you can help with the logistics. You can help get it started so that it can grow and impact these children in your local community.
Yeah, and I just can't even imagine I mean, now I want to go and do it. I could just see so many connections, and that's what's really neat about learning about programs in this space, right? For me and becoming an author, it was such a different space from being in business, and many of our listeners come from other walks of life, and what can I do, right? And there are
Mm-hmm.
ways to get involved. I could imagine, I mean, if this got you in touch with your local library and this got you in touch with local writers and this got you in touch with local families. I mean, just imagine those types of connections, and not that I would just do it for like what's in it for me, but at the same time
Sure.
giving to your community, developing that. I just did and Liz does all the editing for this podcast, by the way. So if you love the podcast, drop a note and tell Liz that you appreciate it. But yeah, so we just did an episode recently, which was 30 ways to promote your book. And one of those things was get involved in your community. And I could just see, right? Because you're
Yes,
not going around saying, please buy my book, please buy my book. And it
exactly.
doesn't, but you could also just be immersed in that community and the connections that you would make.
Exactly.
You don't know what doors are gonna for you. It's just such a neat program. Okay. So coming full circle here, Liz. So Liz lives in Virginia currently, but she's lived in lots of different places. How far is it to
Yes.
Dollywood?
It is only like 3 or 4 hours, I think. It's a very, very popular vacation spot for those of us who live in the Southwest Virginia area. A lot of people, it's a weekend trip, so not very far at all.
Okay. I'm gonna put you on the spot here for a moment. What's your favorite Dolly Parton song?
Oh gosh. I just saw 9 to 5, so it's gotta be 9 to 5. It was stuck in my head, but okay, 9 to 5 was stuck in my head, but Jolene is like top tier. Everybody knows Jolene. And it's amazing. And then I loved Beyonce's take on Jolene. Like anybody who does a cover, I should just have a playlist of Jolene and all the covers because they're so good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, what a metaphor for, I mean, not that they're trying to be Dolly Parton, they're trying to be their own versions of it. And that's what I love
Exactly.
about her image. And when I started looking into it, being like, all right, Liz wants to do this about Dolly Parton. And I'm like, well, what are we doing if we align with that? And does it match our brand? And I think absolutely, right? There's so many
Yeah.
things, and even that people want to cover it or change it. And I'm sure that Dolly Parton's probably really excited about that.
Yes, she's so generous in the music world, supporting other artists and, you know, being so excited every time someone covers her songs. And she did the intro for Beyonce's cover of Jolene. And it was just so great to hear her on that album as well. And to see that, her generosity of spirit is not just within philanthropy, it's within her music. It's just like infused into who she is as a person, which is why I think she's just so amazing to me because it's
Yeah.
it's true, it's real. That's just who she is. She's so generous with everything that she's been given.
And I just think that's beautiful. And I mean, there's so many parallels between the music industry and writing in so many
Yeah.
ways, and I could just see it
Mm-hmm.
because, it's like fan fiction. So if you're going to cover a song, it's kind of like writing fan fiction, which is when you take the character in the world from somebody else's books. Some authors love it and support it, and some
Yeah.
authors will sue your pants if you do it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so it just
Yes.
depends. It just depends on that attitude toward, you can be protective and say that nobody can sing your music or nobody can write about your characters, or you can open up that world and create a fan base and an experience that really transcends any experience that they get reading your book in the first place.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. There are so many parallels that we can draw, and I just wanted to bring this podcast on with such an amazing opportunity to bring this charity to your attention, dear listeners, because I want you to take a look around in the world and think about what type of author you want to be when you get there, right? And if you're already there, maybe you're just making small tweaks. I know it's something that I think about a lot, something that Liz thinks, and we have a lot of conversations about is how do we go forth and do what it is that we want to do in the world. And I just think that the Imagination Library is just one example of what Dolly Parton does, but it's also one example that's really a cool idea that nobody else had thought of, that really brought together a lot of different resources around the world and is creating readers and education and doing so much good. So check it out. Everything that you need to know is in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in to Show Don't Tell Writing with me, Susie Vidori. Help me continue to bring you the straight goods for that book you're writing or planning to write. Please consider subscribing to this podcast and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you're listening. Also visit susievidori.com/newsletter to hop on my weekly inspired writing newsletter list, where you'll stay inspired and be the first to know about upcoming training, events, and writing courses that happen in my community. If you're feeling brave, check the show notes and send us a page of your writing that isn't quite where you want it to be yet for our Show Don't Tell page review episodes. Remember, that book and your writing is going to open doors that you haven't even thought of yet, and I can't wait to help you make it the absolute best. If you're feeling called to write that book, keep going, and I'm going to be right here cheering you on. See you again next week.